welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me again. This is my March allotment update, so my third allotment update now. And you may remember from February's update that I had a delivery of wood chips at the end of the vlog. So the first thing I started doing in March was to move some of this wood chip from the pile that had been dumped in to the paths on the allotment. So it took me a fair few days to get this done, but it really makes a difference to the plot, and I'm really pleased with how it looks. And the great thing is that putting wood chip on the paths means that next year I can scoop up that wood chip, add it to the raised beds, because it will have by that time composted down a little bit, and it means that not only these wood chips give me a good path to walk across and make the allotment look nice, suppress the weeds, but then they also turn into compost for me to use on my beds. So we're giving it a go this year and seeing how that goes. So it's the start of the month, and I just thought I'd give you a update of the seedlings in the greenhouse. So we've got parsley here, we've got some kale, some red cabbage and some onions. The peas are still looking good. Coriander, my surprise coriander that germinated last month, is looking okay. We've got cauliflower here, some herbs and salad leaves on the go in this one here. Some leeks at the back there, and onions in the blue tray, and more onions in the black. We've then got some salad mix, some more brassicas. I think these might be the kohlrabi. More kohlrabi. I do like kohlrabi. And some allium flowers there, and some sweet peas still in their little mini greenhouse that I made in my January vlog. Here are the violas that I got as a bargain and planted in my pallet, and the grape hyacinths are looking good here too. I tried strawberries in these pallets before and they did not work very well. To B&M last night. Wasn't expecting to buy plants. I was there for dog treats, but they had a special offer on fruit trees. So you might have seen in one of my previous vlogs that my cherry tree, which was in its third year, and how I understand it is they take 3 years to fruit, so I should have got fruit off of it this year. It snapped. I think it was in the wind. I have another one, so I still might get cherries this year. But I thought, well, 2 for £12, I can replace the cherry. And I also bought a plum. So I'm not a massive fan of plums, but I've already got apples. I love apples. And I've got the cherry. I don't like pears. And I think they were the option, so I thought, well, I'll get plums and maybe growing my own and trying my own plums that I've grown myself. Yeah, I might enjoy them. If not, I'm going to know someone that likes plums that I can grow them for. So it's time to put on the aubergines and the pepper plants. They were sown on the 25th of January, and I've got one variety of pepper and a few varieties of aubergines, which I'll go through shortly. I sowed them quite early this year, towards the end of January, because in previous years, when I have managed to get the plants to grow to maturity, I haven't got that many fruits off of them. And I've learnt that aubergines and chilies and peppers all need a really long growing season, especially in the UK, where the weather isn't that great and isn't that hot for them. So I'm putting them on into cocoa coir compost. It comes in like a big block and it's sort of dried, and then you add water to it and it expands, and it has these little beads of slow release plant feed in as well. I think JB from Naturally JB's channel has used this to do his chilies in, and I think he said that that's good. So so far so good for me as well. So my varieties of aubergine are Genie, Pinstripe and Violet Night, and again these are ones that other YouTubers have recommended and that have grown, so I'm pretty confident that if I can get these to grow on and give me fruit, that they're going to be Red King variety of sweet peppers this year, and they were recommended by Mark's Allotment plot on YouTube, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they turn out. I also repotted my indoor cucumber, so if you've been following my vlogs, my allotment vlogs, then you will have seen me sowing these cucumbers in January, losing some of them to draft, but one of them surviving, and yeah, it's getting big. So it's 4 days later after repotting, and the peppers are looking okay. I'm not sure if that's a bit of sunburn on the leaves there, but they look pretty happy otherwise. And the aubergines are looking good. We've got the Genie there, the Pinstripe and the Violet Night on the end. But yeah, they look like they've settled in quite nicely into their new pots. So I ended up not being too sure about where to plant the plum tree. I'm still in the process of building my fruit cage, so I know I want it to go in there somewhere, but I need to check what's happening with my raspberries, because some of them look like they might be on their way out. So I want to reassess things first before putting this plum in its final place. So I decided just to pot it up into some compost into a small pot, just to tide it over until I find its permanent position. It's Rufus's first time back on the plot since I woodchipped the paths. Right. What do you think? Huh? You like it? So one of my new allotment neighbours told me about a new garden centre that isn't too far from here. I think about 20 minutes away. Never heard of it before. Had a quick look online and it looks like they've got quite a nice selection of plants and at good prices. So it's time for a road trip. that was lovely. Yeah, nice little garden centre. They had some interesting varieties of herbs and mint that you wouldn't probably normally get at like B&Q or somewhere like that. So I got some herbs. I also got some strawberries because I think mine are dead. Didn't really get a crop last year. They've been overtaken by weeds. So I'm going to head back to the allotment now and get those strawberries into the hanging baskets. So I did have a load of strawberry plants outside near the currant bushes, but the grass overwhelmed them. Even though I put the black plastic down, the grass just overwhelmed them. So I'm starting fresh this year with new plants. So it looks like these come out and then you post the plant in, pop that back in, and then fill the rest of the compost up. So let's give that a go. If I'm squinting, if I'm making funny faces, it's because we've actually got quite a nice sunny day here, and I don't think my eyes are used to it. And the sun's right directly behind where the camera is, so if I'm making strange faces at you, that's why. Okay, so the compost is up to the level of those holes. So now it's a case of popping these in, and I'm going to keep the labels. So I'm going to find a way of putting them in above each plant so that I can remember which one is which, and then when I taste them, when they eventually do give me fruit, because they are going to give me fruit, then yeah, we will know which ones were my favourite. So for now, just pop it in there maybe. And once they're all in, I can pop them in the top. A little bit in. So that one was marshmallow. This one is Hapill. Hapill, I think that's how you say it. Just pop it in with that foliage sticking out the hole there. Make sure the whole thing is out so we've not got any leaves trying to grow inside the hole. Pop that underneath for now. And on with the next. Next is Florence. I've heard of Florence fennel, but not Florence strawberry. But then I suppose there's so many varieties of everything. You're bound to have an overlap. Like I think there's a moneymaker tomato, and there's also a moneymaker cucumber. And I don't rate the moneymaker tomatoes. They give you a lot of tomatoes, but I've never had them that actually taste that exciting. I'd rather grow a tomato that gives you slightly less, but has a really good flavour. Because you can buy bland tomatoes in the supermarket. So why grow bland tomatoes? So some of these labels do say, so Florence says, a vigorous variety producing an abundant late season summer crop of dark red juicy berries with sweet flavour and firm texture, good foliage, disease resistant, that's what we like to hear. So they're going to be a late season one. Marshmallow says it's large, juicy red berries ripen in early summer and have an outstanding flavour, best used immediately in desserts or eaten straight away. So they're going to give us an early one. So we've got an early one and a late one, that's good. Hapill is a very large orange-red conical fruit with delicious flavour, vigorous, heavy cropping, lush plants. That sounds like a beautiful one. Yeah, looking forward to that. So we then have the Cambridge favourite. Medium to large fruits with good flavour, vigorous, heavy cropping, disease resistant, good again, good for jam making. Might be making some jam later in the year, although with one plant, maybe not. Maybe that'll have to be in a few years' time. This is Eros. Very attractive, mid-red, conical shaped berry, delicious in flavour. So that's another conical one. Although the pictures, that looks like quite a short, squat one, and that one looks quite conical and pointed, so we'll just have to see. El Santa. Medium to large fruit with excellent flavour, reliable cropping plants over long period, ideal in the ground. In barrels, grow bags and large containers. Okay, so maybe after a year the Al Santa is going to want to go in a bigger pot. Very nice. Whee! Da, 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 da. Strawberries. Excellent. Happy with that. Well, I wasn't expecting to be planting strawberries today, but there you go. That's what a trip to the garden centre does. So, Hanoi. I'll put that in the middle so I know that both of them are the same rather than having two labels sticking out. And plop it in. Ooh. Settle them in nicely with a good drink. So that's the strawberries done. It's nice to start filling up the polytunnel. A few other things that I bought at the garden centre. Coriander Vietnamese. So I thought that might be interesting for cooking with. It has some really interesting, well, kind of different leaves to what I imagine coriander normally looks like. So yeah, interesting. Hopefully Mark will enjoy using that in the kitchen. And then marjoram, which I tried to grow last year, but weeds got on top of it again. So I'm hoping to look after this one a bit better than I did last year. And chocolate mint. Smells like after eights. And lemon balm, which yeah, it's like a lemony scent, which isn't surprising, I suppose. But I was just talking to one of my plot neighbours, and she said that someone she knew used to kind of crush it in water and use it as a room spray, which sounds like a nice idea. So I'm planting some of them in the herb bed here, and then some in the polytunnel. So I'm trying to put the ones that are less hardy in the polytunnel this year, because this bed here was planted up with lots of herbs last year, but a lot of them that aren't hardy have just died over winter. So I'm trying to either have two and have one outside and one in the polytunnel, or keep the ones that are less hardy inside the polytunnel this year so that I can try and keep them going for more than one season. So I planted the lemon balm outdoors, and then here I'm just digging the hole for the Vietnamese coriander. But what I'm going to do with this one is plant it into a bigger pot into the ground. So I've read that Vietnamese coriander spreads quite quickly, and one of the ways that you can stop a plant doing this is to plant it into a pot and then bury the pot into the ground. So the reason for doing this is that the plant will still benefit from being in the soil and not having to water it as much and all that kind of thing, but the pot being around the base of it will stop it from spreading as much. So I also removed some of the overwintered beetroot from the polytunnel so that I can make space for some more herbs, and here go in some of the coriander. My surprise coriander, I like to call it, because I sowed it and it did nothing for a couple of months, and then I picked it up after finding it on a pile of pots that I've discarded, and it had germinated. So this is my surprise coriander that's going in the polytunnel here, alongside tarragon, oregano and some thyme that's already in here. The dead thing, or the thing that looks dead at the back, is a lemon verbena, and I'm hoping that that will come back this year. So one thing I haven't done yet this year is prune my fruit trees, so I thought I'd better get on with it. This one here is one of my Granny Smith apple trees, and I'm following the kind of idea that you remove anything that looks dead or diseased, which there wasn't really a lot of, and then you're kind of trying to shape the tree. I'm no expert at pruning, but I gave it a go. Also looking to remove anything that is sort of crossing over, so any branches that could potentially start rubbing together, because that's where disease can get in. They rub together, cause like a wound on the branch, and then disease can get into them. This one looked a bit leggy, so I was trying to get a kind of nice rounded shape, so I took that very most top one off, and anything that was really tall or kind of sticking out in a weird direction I took off too. So this is the right time of year to prune apple trees, but not cherries. So the new cherry I wouldn't have pruned anyway, but the one that's been in a couple of years that's sort of directly behind me in the picture, that won't need pruning yet because it's not the right time of year to prune cherries. I believe you prune cherries after they've fruited, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to check that one before I prune it later in the year. So it's also time to prune currant bushes, and I'm starting off with the biggest blackcurrant, which is the one that I'm currently pruning. This is one that came off of a plot at the bottom of my plot. So my plot is technically a half plot, and the other half of that plot, when the people that have it currently took it over, this blackcurrant was there from the previous plot holders, and they didn't want it, so they dug it up and just sort of handed it over the fence to me, and I quickly stuck it in the hole hoping it would survive. And it even gave me currants the same year. Yeah, it was amazing. So I've got that blackcurrant. Behind it is a white currant, and if you've never had white currants, yeah, I'd really recommend them. I'd not tried them before I grew them, and then they're fascinating little berries. So they're almost like see-through, or like they look like little glass berries, and you can see all the seeds and stuff inside of them. So they are a bit strange looking, but also fascinating, and they taste really nice. I think they're my favourite flavour of the currants that I've got. So behind the white currant is a gooseberry, the kind of white or green gooseberry, very spiky. And then over to the sort of right of that, at the back of the picture, is the blackcurrant that I planted on the plot from a bare root. And the one in front of that, you might be able to just about see the label in the picture, that's the red currant. So I'm trying to sort of prune these similarly to how I did the apple trees, in that we don't want anything diseased or dead. So I'm checking for anything that kind of is woody and just snaps and breaks and hasn't got any green in the branch. And then I'm checking for anything that crosses over, so anything that's going to rub together, and pruning at least one of those away. And then trying to create, at least with the gooseberry anyway, trying to create a kind of goblet shape so that the inside of the bush is clear for you to get your hands in and harvest, because particularly with gooseberries, they're very thorny, and trying to get your hand in between all of the branches to harvest, you just get scratched up. So after this, the bushes are going to look a lot better, but as you can see, there's loads of grass and weeds, even though I put the black fabric down last year, which has really helped to suppress them. There's still a lot of grass and weeds to be dealing with here. So the plastic has really helped to suppress the weeds and the grass. This would be overrun if I hadn't have done that. But one of the things I'm doing in March that I haven't mentioned yet is every day I'm coming to the plot and weeding for at least 20 minutes. So whether I'm doing anything else or not that day at the plot, I'm coming down for at least 20 minutes, even if that's the only thing I do. Come down, spend 20 minutes filling up a big trug of weeds and seeing how much weeds I can clear in the month. So today's the 9th of March and I think it's time to get these peas in the ground. They've been sown since the 23rd of November, so I wanted to try sowing these and overwintering them, and they are starting to look a little bit yellowy, so let's get them in the ground. Planted out these salad crops recently. So there's a mix of spinach and mizuna, I think, and mustards and all sorts. They're looking okay. I'm going to keep an eye on them though, and give them a water because this soil looks a bit dry at the moment. It's time for an indoor plant update. Check out the cucumber. There's loads of little flowers on it and tiny little baby cucumbers are coming, and look how tall it's growing. I've wrapped it around this macrame plant pot holder that I had. It's actually one of the holders that I put the cucumbers in before, where they got the draft from the window being open. So I thought rather than put another plant in, just use it as a support for this one. So the peppers and aubergines are getting bigger. Peppers are still looking good despite having those weird spots on their leaves that I think might have been sun damage from the window. And yeah, they just seem to be getting bigger and bigger every day, which is great. So yeah, really pleased with these at the moment. There's the lychee as well in front with its massive leaf. Check out the peas. So I put these in the ground a couple of days ago. Look, they've started clinging on. So yeah, hopefully they're going to start making their way up this support soon. Fingers crossed we get fresh peas this year. Time for another trip to B&Q. This time I'm looking for ratchet straps. I've got a couple of plinths that I turned upside down and turned into planters, but they've been there a couple of years now and they're starting to bow and come apart, so ratchet straps are my quick go-to solution. Let's see how they work. So I put the ratchet strap loosely around the plinth and then I'm just tightening it here, and it the idea is that it will close these gaps up and hopefully hold it in place for the rest of at least this season anyway, so I can perhaps find a solution. So I just had to push that little peg in there and it closed up nicely as I ratcheted them together, and then the other side came together too, hoping if I add 2 straps to each plinth, this is going to hold them for the rest of the season. And there we go, 2 plinth planters have been bodged together with some straps. Hopefully they'll last. I quite like the red stripes as well. It's kind of decorative and functional. I have about 50 kohlrabi plants. They all germinated, which I'm really pleased about. Here they are, look at those little lovelies, roots and all. I think it's a little bit early to be putting them in the polytunnel, but because I have 50, going to risk it and just put some out there, get some stuff, more stuff in the polytunnel, and see if we can clear some of these shelves. Look at it. I'm really pleased with germination this year. I didn't think so much would germinate, so I sowed quite a lot of most things. But yeah, I mean, nothing's going to go to waste because I know a few people that might like them as well. So if things carry on growing and I don't have space for them, I can always give them away. So the other reason I'm thinking it'd be good to plant these in now is because they take around 70 days from sowing to harvesting, apparently. So I think these will be ready to harvest before the tomatoes go in. So most years, or the last few years that I've had the polytunnel anyway, this polytunnel has been filled with tomatoes over the summer. But I'm thinking if I put these in now, they should be ready to harvest before the tomatoes have to go in. So I might as well use the space, this undercover space that I have, before it gets used for those summer crops. So yeah, let's get cracking. So I think it might be time to pot on some of these herbs that are in the Aguilan planter here. Had some good germination on some of them, not so good on others, but yeah, there's definitely some lettuces in there and some various herbs that need potting on, so let's get on with that. So some of the little gem lettuces and spinach from that planter that I've just been potting on from has gone into the polytunnel next to the kohlrabi. And there's also the rab broccoli is in here. Should be able to harvest that within 60 days of sowing, so I'm hoping I'll be able to take some of that soon. Now, I've never had much luck with parsnips, so I'm trying again this year. And I heard a tip from Jessie at Pot37's YouTube that if you chip the seeds first, then you have a better chance of them germinating. So apparently parsnips are notorious for not germinating very well. So I'm putting them on some damp kitchen roll and then putting them into this old hummus tub, putting the lid on to keep them warm and damp, and I'm just going to keep checking on them, and then as soon as they have their tiny little root appear from the seed, I've got to get them in the ground really quickly, else they won't work. So let's see how they go. So it's the next day and the lettuce and spinach already looks happier than it did in those little trays. Also the kohlrabi over here. Some of them are a bit floppy, but I don't know, they look happier. Look at this one. They're kind of perked up more, and dare I say they already look a little bit bigger than they did when I sowed them in here or planted them in here. Look at that one, look at the spinach. I'll have to harvest that soon. And over this side we've got the rab broccoli, which is fast growing anyway. I don't know, I swear, just overnight, literally. feels like it's gotten bigger. And I mean, it's 60 days till harvest, so maybe it does grow that quickly. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. The hanging straws are already showing signs of new growth. Check it out. So it's also the next day after potting on some of the other herbs that were in those little agriland planters. So let's see how they're doing. That might be the summer savoury. I thought it might have been tarragon, but it didn't taste like tarragon because I've just tasted some of that in the polytunnel. So I have a blank label here ready for when I figured out what it was. What do you think? Does anyone out there know what this could be? Chard. Still looking good. So this is the Bright Lights chard, but it looks like all of it is going to be the yellow stemmed variety. I think Bright Lights is normally you get multicoloured, but all of those seeds that germinated were, I think, the yellow stalk one, which is fine by me. Still beautiful, still tastes just as good. This is the Wild Rocket, so there was one of those left over, so I popped it in this spare thing here. Sorrel, I believe it was sorrel. I've not grown sorrel before. Is that what sorrel looks like? These are some nasturtiums that I've sown into pots. I have hundreds of nasturtium seeds, but I thought it's nice to have a few in pots because then I can actually decide where they go, or give them to people, or have a few maybe as house plants I'm going to try this year. This is celeriac. I'm so pleased with being able to germinate that much celeriac, but we'll see how it goes. It's quite slow growing and it's quite temperamental in my experience. And purple top turnips there, so they might need potting soon, or even putting in the ground. Yeah, we have red rookie cabbage. It's got red drumhead up there, red rookie here, Mozart greyhound, and more red drumhead cabbage there. They're looking okay. They look a bit not as green and lush as I'd like, so they might need potting on soon too. So this year I celebrated the official start of spring, the spring equinox, with a gong bath at Lincoln Museum. It's time to harvest the first cucumber. Check it out. I thought this was an appropriate backdrop for the tasting of the first cucumber. Woo! Mmm. 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 Tastes like cucumber. But yeah, really good. Really fresh. Almost a little bit sweet actually. Right, I'm going to cut the rest up and have it in a sandwich. Someone else who loves cucumber, isn't there? What's this? Homegrown cucumber. You're going to sit. 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 Whoa. Plant bargains. Closing the greenhouse up today because it's gone a bit dull again. So it is March the 22nd, and in the week we had a really warm day, but false spring of course, so keeping the greenhouse closed while I'm in here. But I wanted to show you some of my plant bargains that I got. So yeah, fig, little Miss Figgy, look, and she's got some buds on already, you can see that, cute. Oh, and lots of roots, so I did think it might be okay in this pot, but I think I will pop that on. Ooh, it smells so good. So this is Eucalyptus Gunnii azura, I think that is. And yeah, roots are just about to come out of the bottom, so I'll probably put that into a slightly larger pot. Beautiful. Sambucus black lace. And Jessie, I think, on plot 37 has got one of these, and she harvests the berries from it. So yeah, roots in the bottom again, so that's going to be potting on soon. Beautiful, beautiful, like purple foliage on that one. So one of my allotment neighbours spotted this, a toad. But she was on the sort of dusty dirt track on the road, and we were scared that people might drive over her. And she looked a bit tired out, so I picked her up and popped her by my pond and covered her up with some dead grass for a bit of cover. So hopefully she'll be happy there. The first nasturtium has decided to make an appearance. Yay! I was so pleased to see that my tulips had started to come out, and then no, someone's come along and munched them. I think it might have been the muntjac deer. Oh well. So a few days later, and all is not lost with the tulips. Not all of them had been munched, and look at that, beautiful. And there's one in the middle as well that's yet to come up, and I don't think the deer had seen it. So yeah, one more still to come. I think I might have spoke too soon when I said that my rhubarb wasn't going to be doing anything this year, because look, here it comes, lovely pink stems. I might be able to make some crumble soon. So it's the last day of my weed every day for a month for 20 minutes challenge. Bit of a mouthful. It's worked pretty well. Here's what it looked like before the weeding, and this is a lot of what the allotment looked like. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but yeah, 20 minutes of weeding every day has done the world of good, because it's shown me that tackling things in small amounts works. And I mean, look at the result, it just looks so much better. There is obviously some little clumps where there is grass, so that is where the strawberries are. So the strawberries and the grass have intertwined roots, and I'm making the decision as to whether I pull up all of the strawberries and deal with them that way, or leave them in the ground and try and tackle the grass that's around the roots. Any suggestions are very much welcome. So that is March over, and my vlog for another month done. Well done if you got this far. I know this was a long one, and thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with what I'm doing on my allotment, please do consider subscribing to my channel. Not only will you see videos about my allotment and gardening, but there's also videos about my creative projects that I do, and also the trips that I take to see various things that I think you might find interesting. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you in my next video.